We don't have another game, so I have time to kind of cheat and go ahead and do a news of the day video tonight, rather than doing it first thing in the morning. So, and this just saves me some time in the morning. I can do the preview and then I can do some other stuff too. Dale Weiss has been called up by the Montreal Canadiens. This is in relation to Brendan Gallagher being out, although we don't have a timeline yet of how long Gallagher is expected to be out. Now, the good news is Weiss has a lot of NHL experience. The bad news is there's a reason he cleared waivers and he's been in the minors. But as long as it's a stopgap, it should be a pretty good move for Montreal. The Habs, without Gallagher, there's nothing you can do to replace him, really. Rudolph Balcers has been called up by the Ottawa Senators. One of the most fun names in the NHL, and he's back. And this is an Ottawa team that's won more games than was expected. Balcers does have offensive upside. I do think that he's a guy who can potentially produce for Ottawa. This could be an interesting time, as they just got Sabourin back not too long ago as well. So he can ice a pretty competitive lineup, other than on the blue line where they're having some injury problems. Speaking of injury problems, Alexander Texier is on the IR. He has a lumbar stress fracture. That just sounds exceedingly painful. Justin Scott's been called up. We'll see if he plays or gets hurt on his way out for practice or what happens, because right now anybody that plays for Columbus, it looks like, is going to get injured. And on Columbus-related news, John Tortorella has been fined $20,000 by the NHL. It's just a slap on the wrist. For any of the rest of us, $20,000 would be a ton. And I'm sure you can't criticize the officials is the way this works. I think if he had just come out and said, the league's just a bunch of morons, I don't think anything necessarily would have happened. But when you're criticizing officials for something happened in game, it's a slippery slope. So even if the NHL is going, well, we sort of agree with him, if we allow him to come out and say this about officials, we're giving carte blanche then for all coaches. And I remember a time when coaches would come out and criticize officials a lot. And so that's why we have fines. That's why it's kind of not allowed now. And I will say that for Tortorella, he was contrite after, and he said it should be handled in-house. And next time something like this happens, he won't come out and say anything to the press. And I agree. You don't need to involve the press. You don't need to say anything publicly, even while we may agree with what he said. Yeah, if you can handle it in-house. I'm not sure how anything gets fixed from in-house, so that's the problem. Oscar Klefbom, I can't find any update on how long he's going to be out with a foot injury. It's the same foot that he had 2 broken toes on last December. So it doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going on here, but you block a shot with your foot. It's a painful experience. And so for Klefbom, he's out, and we don't know for how long yet. Coming out of last night's game between LA and Philadelphia, Curtis McDermott is going to have a little meeting with the NHL on Friday. The NHL called him to the meeting room there. They're going to have a discussion about the head check on Provorov. So we'll see what happens there. I haven't seen anything yet from NHL player safety about the Corey Perry thing. They may very well not be discussing things today, being New Year's Day and all, and may therefore discuss it tomorrow. If they don't do anything, I'm going to be right there with people who are not very happy with the National Hockey League and the way they treat player safety. And again, I'm a Dallas fan, and I'm saying that is unacceptable. You cannot allow those kinds of hits. Anything where you elbow a guy in the face, can't be doing that. So, and I don't know that intent necessarily matters, because Ryan Ellis is going to be out for a while, is my guess. And again, we don't have an update other than obviously an upper body injury, and we'll likely see an update, I would think, over the next couple of days from the Nashville Predators. I did want to talk a little bit here about Kyle Dubas. So there's a piece now that's on Sportsnet, and they talked about it last night during, I want to say Hockey Night in Canada, but it was just Sportsnet covering. Again, last night felt like Saturday, right? Because there was games all day. They talked about Kyle Dubas and what he did for Ilya Mikheyev. So Mikheyev, of course, injured in a game. He went and spent time with Mikheyev. He bought him stuff. He took care of him. And they flew back at the same time. One thing with Kyle Dubas I'll say is this. I have mentioned before, I think he gets too personally involved with his players. He gets too close. So when he's sitting there negotiating a contract, they're buddies, they're friends, and he really doesn't want to lowball his buddy. He doesn't want to screw somebody over that he really likes this guy. And I think that hurts the Leafs in their cap situation. But something like this, where because he's close to the players, because he has that personal connection, I don't think that can be overstated. I think a lot of this has to do with him being younger than other general managers. He's not cold and callous like other general managers. And something like this, it could absolutely attract the attention of players who might be looking at where they want to play. You might be looking and going, hey, Toronto doesn't just pay their guys, they take care of their guys. So I thought that was a really nice story, and I thought, it is on Sportsnet, so if you go to sportsnet.ca, you can find it. And it talks about how Kyle Dubas has, really gone above and beyond for Mikheyev. And again, I do think that's why they ended up paying Marner a lot of money. I do think that's why they ended up paying Nylander a lot of money, although I'm going to look at the Nylander contract at some point soon and how it's not that bad. The payout initially is just an affront to all things salary cap related, but really his cap hit for what he provides right now, it's not awful. We'll see how things go for Toronto over the rest of this season because they really kind of need to win this season. And last but not least, I'm wearing the Minnesota Wild jersey that they wore for their last outdoor game. That was a Stadium Series game against the Colorado Avalanche. They have not announced their opposition, but the next Winter Classic will be held in Minneapolis. So with it being held in Minneapolis at Target Field, the home of the Minnesota Twins, this is a nice moment for Minnesota, the state of hockey. A lot of the comments I'm seeing from Canadian hockey fans is, there's too many outdoor games. We need to stop this. Why does the NHL do this every year? We need to make it more of a every second, every third year an event. Look how many people went to that event today. Just guess how many people watched it on television. It's a major event. The NHL's not going to stop having it. And it's really kind of become a nice tradition that on January 1st, you get that game out of the way. That's your big game. And so the Minnesota Wild will be the hosts. The speculation has been, and I believe it was Bob McKenzie that said that it's probably going to be the Jets that are against Minnesota. If you want to have fun with this, Minnesota should use the old Minnesota North Stars colors. The green, gold, and white, I think, would look fantastic with a Minnesota with this logo on it. I think the Jets would be fun. But thinking of teams that haven't had to do throwbacks, Arizona might be fun, and Arizona, Minnesota. But again, those teams don't really have much to do with each other yet. They're not in the same division. You could go back to another Colorado matchup. There are people who will be concerned it's going to be Chicago. It's possible it could be Chicago because Chicago's in these events a lot, and that's because it draws a lot of eyeballs to the event. I don't know. You could go with a lot of teams in here. Why not St. Louis? Why not St. Louis and Minnesota in a Winter Classic? And you could have something really fun there. But again, you have to find a team that hasn't maybe done Winter Classics. And Winnipeg was in a Heritage Classic this year. So there are always going to be a lot of outdoor games because they do attract a lot of attention and they make a ton of money. That being said, you guys are all caught up. Let me know your thoughts regarding these on the board here. News of the day part 2, we should say, for January 1st. And this does mean that I don't have to do this in all likelihood in the morning. I can't see there being a whole lot more news by tomorrow morning that I have to report on. Although we do have the World Junior Championships where it's the quarterfinals tomorrow. So maybe I'll do some sort of a quarterfinal wrap-up tomorrow. We'll see. That being said, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for helping this channel reach 130,000 subscribers. I like it when it's a nice round number like that. That makes it a lot of fun. And I thank you for people who've liked videos, commented on videos, hit the subscribe button, not hit the subscribe button, just watching videos counts. It all adds up. And thank you guys so much for all your help along the way. I will talk to you again, likely first thing in the morning, where we've got 12 games in the NHL. And I'll have that preview all set up tonight to provide to you guys tomorrow morning. Thanks again.